Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gina Werfel. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I will be the moderator for this session. Thank you for joining today's session. Today's session is entitled Pre-ETS, VR, and Social Security, oh my. Our presenters today are Rachel Loria, Senior Disability Advocate with dLCV, and Julie Triplett, our VA Unit Manager with dLCV. Before we get started, there's a few housekeeping rules we'd like to address. Speakers, please remember that we are using live captioning and interpreting services. When you first introduce yourself today, whether it be as a speaker or a participant later on, please include a physical description of yourself and your preferred pronouns, such as, I am an African-American woman with curly black hair and glasses. I'm wearing a red blouse and have the dLCV Summit blue background. My preferred pronouns are she, her. This will help provide context for attendees who may be blind or vision impaired, and will also help our interpreters and captioners locate who is speaking on the screen. Please stay muted at all times unless you are the speaker, and please hold all questions until the end. We do have a chat box that will be monitored by the moderator. The chat box is used for questions only, or as directed by the session speaker. At the end of each session, moderators will select some questions from the chat box. If your question is chosen, you may take yourself off of mute and ask your question, or simply type your question in the question box. We hope you enjoy the presentation today.
Good afternoon. My name is Rachel Loria, and I'm a Senior Disability Advocate here at Disability Law Center, Virginia. We want to thank you for attending this afternoon, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So to start, I'm going to share our legal disclaimer, which is that this presentation is designed to provide general legal information and is not intended to provide legal advice. This presentation does not create an attorney-client relationship with the Disability Law Center of Virginia. So as many of you hopefully know by now, our mission here at dLCV is that through zealous and effective advocacy and legal representation, we work to protect and advance legal, human, and civil rights of persons with disabilities, combat and prevent abuse, neglect, and discrimination, and promote independence, choice, and self-determination by people with disabilities. And just as a visual descriptor, I am a Caucasian female with long brown hair, wearing a yellow shirt with a black curtain behind me, and my pronouns are she, her. So why is it important to understand your rights in terms of vocational rehabilitation? We know that a lot of people who have disabilities want to work, and that they have skills and they have passions that they want to pursue. But sometimes a person's disability can be a barrier to employment. Vocational rehabilitation providers can help to navigate those barriers to employment. And that's why it's important for you to understand your rights to vocational rehabilitation. So the process kind of starts with transition in high school. And that process can start, that does not necessarily have to start your senior year of high school. We prefer that it start way before that, sophomore, junior year. And when we talk about services a little bit later, we'll talk about how services can start happening at the age of 14. Transition is made, the transition planning is made to be a support that helps students with disabilities prepare for life after high school and succeed in life after high school. And the services that are incorporated in that should be about what the student wants and what they need to be their best after high school. So examples of services could include evaluations to help the student decide what their interests are and what their job interests are, and if they need to pursue college or other education after high school. Could include opportunities for developing job skills by going into workplaces and seeing what day-to-day life is like in those workplaces. Could include looking at college programs or career training schools. And finally, it could include discussing supports that that person might need for independence. such as using a telephone, taking public transportation, note-taking in the college setting, lots of different accommodations that a person might need or supports that a person might need to be independent. So the transition services have to be written into the IEP, and this is called a transition plan. The transition plan has to include goals and what needs to be done to meet those goals. It's also got to include the agencies that are going to support the student as they're trying to meet those goals. And it's important that the IEP team think about your education, what you want to do in terms of work, where you want to live in terms of your living needs, and also your support system, your family. Get family input into that as well. Agencies that can assist with transition planning include the Department for Aging and Rehabilitative Services, DARS, the Department for the Blind and Visually Impaired, DBVI, the Community Services Board, CSB, and the Centers for Independent Living, CILS. Transition services, and this is really important, do not have to be provided on school grounds. For students, if a student's thinking about college or community college, transition services can be provided there instead of at the school. If a job site's more appropriate, transition services can be provided there. If you disagree with the school about transition services, you can ask for mediation. You can request due process or file a complaint with the Department of Education. You can also call dLCV to see if we could assist you in terms of issues with transition planning. Now let's talk about pre-employment transition services, which we call Pre-ETS. Pre-ETS are services that are provided by vocational rehabilitation agencies, and the goal for Pre-ETS is to help high school students learn the job skills necessary for the workforce. So let's start with how much do those services cost? These services are free for students. Under the Workforce Innovations and Opportunities Act of 2014, WIOA, the state provides funding for these services, and 15% of funding for VR should be used for pre-employment transition services. So what are the 5 core services of Pre-ETS? Work-based learning experiences. You're going to have the opportunity to observe different jobs or work environments to determine what skills are necessary for specific jobs. This can be done virtually or it can be done in person. There are programs virtually that DARS and DBVI both have access to if that's something that you want, or it can also be done in person. Job exploration counseling. They're going to work with the student and the families to determine what careers interest the student. This is usually done on a type of paper inventory, but it can be done with pictures, it can be done with words, it can be done spoken. It's individualized, and that's important to remember that it's individualized. Counseling on training and educational options. You're going to meet with a counselor or an instructor to discuss education or training after high school. This can consist of college, on-the-job training, or vocational school. One thing I remind folks here is that sometimes DARS or DBVI can assist with paying for school after high school. This is something you need to talk about with your counselor. They'll talk you through the financial eligibility, but it's something to remember that they can sometimes assist with. Workplace readiness training is working with a counselor to determine the skills necessary for success in the workplace. That can include social skills, resume development, interview skills, computer skills, advocacy skills. Any of those things that people think are soft skills that you need for the work environment would fit under this criteria. And self-advocacy is the last one. You're going to learn how to, students will learn how to speak up for themselves, including how to ask for accommodations at work or college or in the community, and they'll also be learning independent living skills. And these core services, and it's important to understand this, pre-employment transition services can be provided in any setting that provides educational services. Does not just have to be the public schools, does not just have to be the private schools. Any setting that provides educational services, if the child has a disability, they are eligible for pre-employment transition services. They don't even have to have an IEP or a 504 as long as they have a diagnosed disability. So after pre-employment transition services comes vocational rehabilitation. So vocational rehab, or voc rehab as we sometimes call it, refers to services that can help a person who has a disability find a job, keep a job, or move up within a job, if that person's disability is a barrier to employment. Some of these services can be free, so it's important to speak with your VR counselor to find out what services you need to pay for and which are free, and what you qualify for in terms of financial eligibility. Who can provide these services? The agencies that we just talked about, DARS, DBVI, or your local Center for Independent Living, can all provide those services. So how can those services help you? Agencies that provide VR services can help in a lot of different ways. They can help you look for a job. They can help you prepare for job interviews. They can help you with job application. They can support you for a specific amount of time while you're working. They can help you learn skills that you need for work. They can also help you understand how much you can make without losing your Social Security benefits. That's really important. And they can also at times help to pay for things like education. How do you contact those agencies? I've included the contact information below, but I will read it for those that need it. For DARS, which is DARS, you can call the voice number, which is 804-662-7000. For the Department for the Blind and Vision Impaired, DBVI, you can call 1-800-622-2155. And to find your local Center for Independent Living, CIL, you can call 540-433-6513. So how can dLCV help with VR issues? If you're interested in learning about VR, we can connect you to your local office. We can also, if you've been denied a specific service from VR, we can help to advocate for you to get the VR services that you need. If there's been a miscommunication or you're not happy with your VR services, we can help to navigate those and ensure that you're getting the services that you need. If DARS or DBVI is trying to close your case, we can sometimes advocate to keep your case open. If that is the case, though, we need you to call us like as soon as you should be getting a letter that says within 30 days they're going to close your case. You need to call us soon so that we can start advocating for that, for them to keep your case open. And at times we can also help to explain policy. If it's something that there's a policy that you're not understanding, we can sometimes help to explain that. So now Julie is going to talk about Social Security and what happens when you turn 18.
Hello, good afternoon. Am I on okay? Y'all can hear me?
Yeah, Julie, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Hi, good afternoon. I'm Julie Triplett, and I am not Beth Klein. Your program and agenda says that Beth Klein is doing the session. Beth could not be here today, so I'm stepping in her stead. So I'm glad to be with you all. I get the fun part of talking about Social Security, and it is definitely Social Security, oh my, because Social Security, we've been talking about services as you prepare for life after high school and preparing for transition from high school to adulthood. That's a scary time for anybody without a disability or with a disability, especially for students with disabilities. It's It's really scary because there's so many things, so many services, and so many opportunities opening up for them that maybe had not been there before. If students with disabilities are if they have SSI growing up as a child, supplemental security income, SSI, if they have that as a child, the thing that you need to know is when they turn 18, that SSI is going to stop because they were found eligible for SSI under the parents' or guardians' income and resources and their own disability and the student's own disability. So when the student turns 18, you have to reapply for SSI, and they reapply as an adult. Now, the bad thing here is you have to go through all that paperwork again. The good thing is that when they apply for SSI as an adult, they look at it differently. They don't consider the parents' income or resources anymore. They consider the student, the adult's resources and income and their disability. To get SSI as an adult, two things have to happen. Number one, you must, underline the word must, have a documented disability by the Social Security Administration, SSA. You have to be found eligible as having a disability by SSA. Number two, you have to fall within the resource limits for SSI, supplemental security income. The resource limits are for a single person, you can have resources no more than $2,000. For a married person, you can have resources no more than $3,000. So we're not going to get into a lot of what resources are, but I'll just give you, if there's a resource, if there's something that you can cash out to get money for yourself, even if it's a penalty, that can be considered a resource. Okay, so that is very important to note. If there's an 18-year-old and there's some trust that was left for them, and yes, they can get it out, but there's a penalty, that would still count as a resource. So that is something that you should talk to Social Security about, because they can educate you about that, about the resources and how to spend down so that you can eventually qualify for SSI. Okay, so you have to to qualify for SSI, you have to have a disability, like I said, and you have to meet the resource requirements. But again, it's your resource requirements and not your parents. So you have to do that. Another thing, that if you're getting SSI as an adult, you have to then reapply for Medicaid as an adult. And there are similar resource limits and qualifications that you will have to apply for when using Medicaid. And Medicaid's applications are done through your local social services office. So it is a tedious process, and it is not fun, but it is very necessary. And you need to know, because a lot of times people go into that 18th birthday and they think, well, I'm still on SSI. Well, you may accidentally get checks for a few months after you turn 18 until Social Security catches up, but you shouldn't spend them because you're going to be in an overpayment. But you need to know that it's very important to go ahead and start reapplying for SSI a couple of months before the 18th birthday. So anyway, so that's that. And I said you have to be redetermined for Medicaid. I also want to say that, you know, when applying for SSI, they look at, are you going to be able to work? Is your disability too severe to work? If it's too severe to work, they're going to look at, well, can you be trained to do something that your disability, you can be accommodated with in your disability? So when you're applying, you need to fill out the application for SSI as if it is your worst possible day with your disability. applying for SSI benefits and is not the time to say all the victories you've had with your disability. If you really need the SSI, you want to be like, it is like the worst pain you have on a scale of 1 to 10. If on your worst day that pain is 12, then you have to tell them that. And you have to tell them how your pain or your limitation or your anxiety limits your ability to function and how you can hold a job down. So all that is very important. And it's good to get your doctors on board with you when you're applying for SSI. So you want to, and also once you get on SSI, it's important to note that if you're a student up to age 21 on SSI, you can qualify for what's called a student earned income exclusion, an SEIE, so that if you're a student still in some type of educational or training program and you receive SSI, you can make a certain amount of money and not lose your SSI benefits. And it's quite a bit amount of money that you can make up and not lose your SSI. This is only for students up to age 21 to try out working, because the goal is we want people to work. If they can work, we want them to be able to work. So I encourage you to ask Social Security about the student earned income exclusion. Also, the resources that we gather the information from on our website, on the PowerPoint today, are mainly from Social Security's website. So that's why a lot of them say, contact us or contact, or we may want to know. That's Social Security's language. That's not ours. We want you to first contact Social Security if you have questions or you need assistance. If you are not getting anywhere with contacting Social Security, then you should contact the Disability Law Center of Virginia, and we may be able to help provide you some information that will help you as you try to negotiate applying for Social Security for SSI as an 18-year-old. So that's really good information to know. So Rachel, I think we covered the slides. Am I correct? Are you there?
Yeah, the foster care part.
I'm sorry.
The foster care part about calling 180 days before the 18th birthday.
Oh yes. If you have a student who is in foster care, or you know of a student who is in foster care, then you should have them contact Social Security about 6 months, 180 days before they turn 18. Because when they age out of foster care, and when they're 18, again, they have to reapply when they're 18. So when they age out of foster care, they're going to not have any resources. So you need to get that ball started 6 months before. Rachel, do we want to go into the questions now?
They connect with us. They can connect with us through our website.
Oh yeah, you can connect with dLCV through our Get Help portal on our website, which is dlcv.org/get-help. You can also call to speak to an advocate on Mondays, Wednesdays, or Fridays between 8:30 and 4. And that number is 804-225-2042 or toll free 800-552-3962. You will, if you do the Get Help request, you don't have to wait till Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. You can fill out a Get Help request at any time, and that will be sent to the appropriate staff member, and someone will get back to you. And then if you speak to an advocate when you call in, they will, if they're on the phone, they will call you back as soon as they can.
I'm going to stop share and then we can answer questions as needed.
Mhm.
So there was only one question in the chat that I saw.
Okay.
The question is, it is from Christine Eubanks, and it is, if your young adult is a college student who will need support after graduation, are they also eligible for pre-ETS or only vocational DARS services?
So if they're a college student, are you talking about graduation, after graduation from college?
It doesn't say. Do you want to hop on? Okay, yes,
Yes.
so after college.
So then I would recommend going towards VR supports, vocational rehab. Pre-ETS, you can get supports from pre-ETS while you're still in school, but many of those pre-ETS services you can also get as a VR client. Right, Julie?
Yes.
Okay, let me see.
And we're,
And
Uh,
if you're getting pre-ETS services, the counselor should be working, if you're a student getting pre-ETS services, and your VR counselor should be working with you to get you eligible for VR services before pre-ETS stops.
right. And we're glad to answer any other questions.
Yeah.
We really appreciate everybody taking the time today. I think if you log on through the conference portal, you can get some other information and some other resources that might help you. So we'll stay on for a couple of minutes in case people have questions.
Hi, it's Christine. I'm looking at the portal, and is there a place where there are files listed, or do you mean the handout from this talk?
I am not sure if they're actually posting. Can someone from the summit?
Yeah.
Someone
I
from
see the
Summit-
PowerPoint and the a Word document
Okay.
attached to this. So what other resources were you referring to?
I thought they had
Could you
included,
help us out with that?
yeah, I thought they had included like information from other sessions if you couldn't make certain sessions or.
Oh, sure. Yeah, they're all, yeah.
Yeah,
all the
that's
different-
what we're
Yeah.
referring to.
Okay, great.
Are there any other questions?
Julie, they can also get a lot of this information from the Coming of Age manual on our website, right?
Yes, yes, yes. We should have had that link on our thing, but we have a manual that you can find on our website. It's under resources for students and young adults with disabilities. It's under that link, and it's called our I Have a Choice, I Have a Voice Coming of Age Manual, and it is in English and in Spanish. You can link to that manual on the website, or if you would like to have a print copy free of charge, you can contact dLCV through our publications page and request some copies of that, and we will get that out to you.
And I'm sharing my screen I'm trying to share my screen right now so that I can at least show where that is on our website. So it's under the resources section, you go to publications, and then you can click on the I Have a Choice, I Have a Voice manual. And it's got lots of information. It's got stuff about pre-ETS, it's got stuff about supported decision-making, stuff about SSI. Lots of things that change when you turn it.
There's a whole lot of information in that manual about the age 18 redetermination for SSI and Medicaid. So I think it's an excellent resource for professionals and parents and students.
And some stuff about voting rights. and
Absolutely.
those kinds of things that change, which is important to know as our election's coming up. And let's stop sharing.
I do not see any other questions right now.
All right. Well, we finished early, so y'all can go walk around or take a break or whatever before your next session. And I know Rachel and I both appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you so much. And thank
Thank
you,
you,
Christine,
everyone.
for sharing. Christine shared the, I have a voice manual in chat, so if anybody needs it, please feel free to go to that link.
Yep. Or again, we can send you one in print.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.